Start with our first committee item that's on the agenda here today, and that is great item 245, relating to the appointment of Ricky Aaron Sanchez to the Urban Design Review Board. Resolution 22-127's purpose is to approve or disapprove the mayor's nomination of Ricky Aaron Sanchez to the Urban Design Review Board, or term expiring March 31st, 2023, to fill a vacancy replacing Stuart Marlowe. And from the mayor's administration, we have Mr. Mossman on the call. If you could give us a brief overview on the nominee. Good morning, Mr. Mossman.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chair Mike Molina and Shin Chow. Ricky Sanchez is no stranger to our boards and commissions. He's been a great representative from the Lanai Island, and he has put in a application back in April to sit on the urban design, and I thank you guys for taking the time and getting this up on the agenda. And if Ricky, I talked to him yesterday, if he's not on, that means that he's not going to be able to join the meeting, and I don't see him on there. So with that, that is our nomination for this board, and we ask for your support.
Hey, thank you very much, Mr. Mossman. Staff, can you confirm if Mr. Sanchez is on the call?
Chair, we do not see Mr. Sanchez on the call.
Okay. All right. Well, with that said, members, any questions for Mr. Mossman? I'll go to Lanai Island representative. We'll start with Mr. Johnson. Do you have any questions or comments about the nominee? Please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman Molina. Yeah, I know the Sanchez's. I know Ricky pretty well. Born and raised Lanai. I'm happy that he's stepped up to do some, contribute to our community through a board and commission. I have a question for Mr. Mossman. I know he put and you mentioned it, he put his application back in April. Why so long? And was it just he was waiting for an opening, or was he applying for other boards and commissions?
Thank you for that, Council Member Johnson. He had put in for the replacement of Christopher Curtis back then, and it's just because of I believe it was just waiting to get on an agenda. And this, because there's no timeline on this actual board, I believe that it was when your board opened through the great, maybe Chair Mike Molina can give more information on that.
Okay. So unfortunately he's not here today, so I'm just going to ask you, Mr. Mossman. He's a plumber. He owns his own company. What kind of contribution could he have for urban design? Is that a it's hard to ask you, but I mean maybe you can help us understand. Like,
Mr. Johnson, Mr. Mossman, if I could just interrupt for just a second. I've been informed by staff to announce if we have any other testifiers before we continue the line of questioning. So, staff, do we have any other testifiers for great item 245 at this point?
Chair, we do not have anyone on the call that has indicated they wish to testify on this item.
Okay, members, Chair's recommendation is to close public testimony on this item. Any objections?
No objection.
Okay, so ordered. Close public testimony on that item. So, and Mr. Johnson, my apologies again. Mr. Mossman, do you need the question repeated to you from Mr. Johnson?
Okay, thank you, Council Member Johnson. Ricky, because of the lack of applicants from the island of Lanai, I have a few other pending boards right now. But when we talked, I asked Ricky because he was available, wanted to serve, and we talked about it. And he said, put me on a board that we can do. So we put him on the urban board because we are, by charter, I need to have someone from Lanai on there. And that was I think the main reason for the applicant and for our nomination, due to the fact that we had a Lanai applicant that was willing to serve on the board. Now, from the standpoint of what he brings to the table, nothing more than the willingness to serve his community and give back to his community. And I think that's the best way to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Member Johnson. Members, any other questions for Mr. Mossman as it relates to the nominee, Mr. Sanchez, for the Urban Design Review Board? Okay, go ahead, Vice Chair Fernandez.
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha, Mr. Mossman.
Good morning.
Um, do they meet once a month?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure you wouldn't nominate him if you were concerned about his attendance, but he's not here. So and I know you've been good about sharing with each nominee the attendance policy. I just wanted to get assurance on his attendance. And part of the reason I'm asking is in his application, it says, please indicate why you're interested in serving and what skills you may have to contribute. And it just says, I am in building construction, and then that's it. So there isn't a real seemingly strong interest. And so there's a bit of a concern about attendance if there isn't a strong interest that's clear to see.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rollins, Fernandez. Mr. Hernandez. But, we did have this conversation, and when Ricky and I did talk about it, he was with the board, commission on persons with disability with an outstanding record of attendance. So that was not a problem at all from the standpoint. Again, Ricky has been one of those that over and beyond has been available. And when this happened, and I have been, and I know Councilmember Johnson knows that I've been trying to get people from Lanai applicants. And so with Ricky stepping up, I thought it was a good fit for what we needed at the point. And so that's, we support him wholeheartedly. He's a very good member.
Mahalo, Mr. Mossman, for that assurance about attendance,
Yes.
that he has a good record of attendance on a previous board of commission. And generally, I'd like to see new, individuals on boards and commissions, but as a Molokai resident, I totally understand the challenges of, getting new individuals on boards and commissions from Molokai, Lanai, Hana.
Absolutely.
Mahalo. Mahalo, Chair.
Okay, mahalo, Vice Chair Fernandez. Before I recognize Member Johnson, any other members have any questions with regards to the nominee for Mr. Mossman? Seeing none, let's go back to Member Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. This is just a quick clarification. So this is Ricky Sanchez Sr., not Ricky
Yes.
Sanchez Jr., right?
Yes.
Because if you folks remember, Ricky Sanchez Jr. came before us and applied once, and I don't think he got approved. So this is his father. And I was looking over, I was like, where's the birthday? Because they're both Ricky Sanchez. So now after hearing that, it is the father now members. So that's a point of clarification. Thank you, Chair.
And
My
thank you,
fault,
Member Johnson. That's an important clarification. Appreciate that.
Councilmember Johnson,
Members?
my fault. I should have clarified that right from the start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mossman. Members, any other questions for Mr. Mossman before the chair makes his recommendation? Okay, Member Paulton?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mossman. I just was wondering, was this Mr. Sanchez Sr.'s first choice of boards and commissions?
Thank you, Member Paulton. It was basically something that we needed to fill with someone from the Lanai Island. And so with him being gracious enough to step up and wanting to serve his community, that was basically the forerunning decision on the nomination for this person.
Oh, okay. And Urban Design and Review Board has requirement that every district be represented.
Yes.
Represented. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Member Paulton. Members, any last questions for Mr. Mossman before the chair makes a recommendation? Okay, seeing none. All right, members, the chair is going to recommend adoption of Resolution 22-127, approving the nomination of Ricky Aaron Sanchez Jr., I should say, to the Urban Design Review Board for the County of Maui. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Member Johnson, seconded by Member Paulton. Any final discussion on the nominee? Seeing none, then the chair will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
All those disapprove? Okay. Seeing none, for the record, the chair will mark it 6 ayes with 3 excusals, members Sugimura, Kama, and King. So Mr. Sanchez's nomination will be moved forward to the next council meeting for final decision making. All right, thank you very much for your work on that, members. Okay, moving on to our next second agenda item listed, which is grade item 257, appointment of a member to the Urban Design Review Board for the County of Maui. Resolution 22-225's purpose is to approve or disapprove the mayor's nomination of Ashley Noelami Miki Otomo to the Urban Design Review Board for a term expiring on March 31st, 2027. Go ahead, Mr. Mossman, please provide opening comments on this nominee, and right after you're done, we'll see if there's any other testifiers for this matter. Mr. Mossman, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Molina. Ashley Otomo comes to us from a background of engineering, and she has sent in an application, and we do need engineers on this urban board. It was kind of, we talked about attendance, we talked about a lot of different things and with her credentials that she has, we welcome her to this board because it's so difficult to find architects, engineers, etc. to the board. So with that being said, we're happy to have her on board if approved, and I believe she is on the call, and I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mossman. All right, staff, do we have any testifiers at this point?
Chair, we do not have any testifiers signed up for this item.
Okay. Staff, would it be okay to ask Ms. Otomo to provide opening comments, and then we'll decide to close public testimony after the nominees' opening comments?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, great. All right, now I believe Ms. Otomo is on the call. If you're there, good morning, Ms. Otomo. Thank you for being here to respond to any questions the committee may have. We'd like to ask you to maybe take about a minute or two and indicate to the committee why you would like to be considered for this committee. So please go ahead and do so.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Molina and council members, for your time this morning. So I put in an application to serve on the Urban Design Review Board because I think it's a good way to give back to my community in a meaningful and impactful way. As Ipo indicated, I have a background in civil engineering, and many of my projects have gone before Urban Design Review Board in the past. So I feel that I'm very, I'm very familiar with their issues and what they're concerned about for our community and the proposed developments for our community. And as a civil engineer, I think I can bring good technical perspective to some of these projects.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your opening comments. Before we consider public testimony, Chair would like to recognize the presence of Member Kama to our proceedings this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Aloha kakahiaka, Chair, and Zen Chow to my colleagues. I beg your forgiveness for being late today. I had an early morning appointment, but I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much, Chair.
All right. Thank you very much, Member Kama. No need for to ask for forgiveness. We just appreciate you being here. All right, staff. So I assume there are no testifiers on the call.
Chair, we did have one person join the call. That is Brandon Maka'ava.
Okay, I believe Mr. Maka'ava. We're taking testimony right now for grade item 257. Would you like to testify on that, Mr. Maka'ava?
Oh, aloha, Chair. Is 257 the Bank of America thing? I just got this notice early this morning, so I just wanted to listen in.
Sorry, Mr. Maka'ava. That is our next one of our committee items that's posted for later on the agenda. But once we get to that item, if you're willing to wait, we can entertain your testimony on that if you like.
Okay. I'll hang around.
Okay, we'll come back to you. All right, thank you. Okay, staff, so any other testifiers on the call for grade item 257?
Chair, there are no other testifiers for this item.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Greco. All right, members, if no objections, the chair will close public testimony for grade item 257 related to the nomination of Ms. Ashley Otomo to the Urban Design Review Board. Any objections to closing public testimony?
Objections, Chair.
Okay, so ordered. All right, very good. So members, now the floor is now open for either Mr. Mossman or Ms. Otomo to respond to questions. I'll go ahead and start first, and then I'll recognize Member Johnson. Again, thank you very much, Ms. Otomo, for being here. I'm going to steal one of the questions that's typically asked by my vice chair, Yanni Rollins Fernandez, about attendance. Now, certainly you're a very busy person. I believe the Urban Design Review Board, I don't know if they meet on an as-needed basis or they have a scheduled once-a-month meeting. Mr. Mossman, can you confirm, Urban Design Review Board, they have a regularly scheduled once-a-month meeting, or do they meet more on an as-needed basis?
In fact, thank you, Chair Molina. In fact, they have a 2 times a month that is scheduled, but they normally meet once a month for sure. But they do have, and it's on every Tuesday of the month, every first Tuesday and third Tuesday of the month, which is scheduled, and then they go off of what is needed.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Mr. Mossman. So with that said, Mr. Otomo, I assume that shouldn't be a problem then, the minimum once-a-month meeting for you, because obviously you're in a very busy profession. So just to get that reassurance from you, so no problems with attending the meetings that time.
No problems. I'll be committed to attending the meetings.
All right, very good. Okay, the floor is now open for additional questions. We'll go with Member Johnson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Ms. Otomo. Thank you for your willingness to serve. I have a question for Mr. Mossman. Under the Urban Design Review Board, are there requirements on this board to have engineers? And if not, and do we have any engineers on the board as it stands?
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Yes, we need to have a minimum of 2 engineers on the board. 1 engineer will be coming this mass nomination on March 31st. We have right now 2 on the board. Ms. Otomo will be the 3rd person pretty much in place of that vacancy that's coming up.
Okay, I don't know how you're finding all these engineers, Mr. Mossman. The county's been looking for engineers for years, but it's good to have an excess. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I appreciate Ms. Ashley Otomo stepping up and giving back to the community. We appreciate that.
Most definitely. Mahalo for your willingness to serve, Ms. Otomo. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo, Member Johnson. Members, any other questions for Ms. Otomo or Mr. Mossman? We'll go with Member Sinensi, followed by Committee Vice Chair Rollins Fernandez. Member Sinensi?
Hello, Chair, and aloha, Mr. Otomo, for your willingness to serve, for being here this morning. Just curious, we've been working hard lately about, for my committee anyway, protections for any cultural inventory with our cultural overlay bill, as well as discussing about some wetlands bill and drainage, particularly in South Maui. So as an engineer, how do you prepare yourself for these types of things should they come up before the Planning Commission? You're on the Urban Design Review Board. Are you willing to, what kind of advice would you be giving the Planning Commissions about these certain?
Right. Based on past experience with projects that have gone before Urban Design Review Board, for engineering related questions, drainage is one of the biggest concerns. So I think based on a project by project basis, you kind of look at where it is in relation to sensitive areas on the island, and that's kind of where you go with your recommendations or the kinds of questions you would ask of project applicants. I know Kihei is a regional concern for drainage issues. There's also other spots in the low-lying spots on the island that would be of concern as well.
And then for those areas with sensitive cultural sensitivities, at what point in the design phase do you not necessarily stop a project, but revamp or look at changing the design to protect some of these burial sites and such?
I think that's a good question. I think sometimes when projects come before Urban Design Review Board, some of those issues are not fully fleshed out. There's some projects that don't encounter those issues till construction. And there's other projects that have done due diligence and they know about these issues. So I think it would be on a case-by-case basis. But the Urban Design Review Board, from my understanding, is not a decision-making board. It's a advisory board to the planning commission. So I don't know that they would have the ability to stop a project.
Thank you, Ms. Otomo, for your responses. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Nancy. Committee Vice Chair Rollins Fernandez.
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha, Ms. Otomo. Mahalo for your willingness to serve on the board. I just have one question since the chair asked one of my questions already. And you answered an earlier question that I usually ask, which is, what's your experience? So you've already come before the Urban Design Review Board in the past with past projects. So if in the future you have your engineering company has any projects, will you be recusing yourself?
Yeah, right. I believe that is the normal protocol, is to recuse yourself from projects that you are a part of the project team.
And you would have a coworker present before the board? Or how would that work?
I don't think that would be the case. On past projects that I've gone before urban design, the engineers are not typically part of the presentation. We're there for technical support if questions are asked. And I believe that we're allowed to answer questions, just not be a presenter.
So a coworker would then be there to field questions on your company's behalf?
No, it's my understanding that if you're a member of the urban design, you can answer questions as part of the project team, but you're not allowed to present as part of like the PowerPoint presentation, but you can answer technical questions. This came up at the last Urban Design Review Board meeting, actually, with one of the members who had to recuse himself. He was able to answer questions after the presentation, but not be a part of the project presentation to the board.
Okay, that's different. But I guess the board is not a decision-making body, it's just advisory. That's still awkward for me. Usually if you're a voting member of a body, you wouldn't also serve as a resource person to that body that you sit on. But I understand that it's challenging to fill this board because it requires engineers. Yeah. Okay. Mahalo, Ms. Otomo. Mahalo, Chair.
Mahalo, Vice Chair Fernandez. That is certainly a good issue to bring up. I would think, yeah, you'd be there more as an information or resource, but cannot directly participate in the discussions, and obviously not. I guess it's something that, and of course it's up to the committee to how they want to handle it too, yeah. So there's a fine line, I guess, to everything. Members, any other questions for Ms. Otomo or Mr. Mossman? Member Paulton?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Otomo, for your willingness to serve. I just was wondering, are you doing realtoring and civil engineering at the same time, or is that part of your profession finished?
No, I have a active real estate license. I don't necessarily use it very often. I've done a couple of transactions for family members, but I do not actively seek real estate business.
Okay, and if that were, you would recuse on the real estate end too, if it was like your real estate client coming up?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Paulton. Members, any other questions for Ms. Otomo or Mr. Mossman? Okay, I see Mr. Snancy. Go ahead.
Hello, Chair, for my second. Yeah, this is just a question for Mr. Mossman. It looks like there are 3 vacancies, and we did just go ahead and approve Mr. Sanchez. Are you looking to include any future appointments that may have, water, some water experience or environmental experience on this board?
Thank you, Chair Sinitsky. At this particular board, we're having such a hard time trying to find architects and engineers, period. But if the need did come up for someone that had qualifications, we would very much so. It leaves us with 2 openings for the general side after you go through the specifics. And so with the land architect, 2 different architects with 2 different engineers and all that. So the difficulty here is finding the professional side, but yes, very open to having that conversation as it arises. If we were able to put in somebody, along with the districts, et cetera, that we follow.
Yeah, and as Member Johnson said, it's hard to find those types of engineers. Maybe like some type of environmental engineer or some sort. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sinensi. Member Paulton?
Yeah, sorry, I just had another question for Mr. Mossman. I was wondering how many females are currently on the board.
Councilmember Paulton, let me read that right now. On the urban, sorry, I wasn't really prepared for that question, but right now I have actually, I would say there's 1 on the alternate and three total women on this board.
Okay. Oh, that's good then, because now we're getting more gender balance.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Member Paulton. Members, go ahead. Vice Chair Ramos Fernandez.
Mahalo, Chair. Just a quick question for Mr. Mossman. What is this called? The list that I'm looking at right now with the Urban Design Review Board, there are 2 vacancies in the alternates and 2 men. So I don't see a woman as one of the alternates. Was there an update?
I'm sorry, not on the alternate side. There was 3 here that we have with there's a Mandy, Kimmy, Marie, Kimmy, yeah,
Carol.
and a Mandy Saito, and
Carol,
right. And then that would be 4 with Ashley if approved, and nothing on. Now, when you look at the list, I know you're seeing that right now. You can see that where we need the biggest help right now is architects and, the professional side. And so that's where we're really having the challenges of finding those people, and to meet the district, the gender, et cetera, becomes a challenge.
Yeah, mahalo, Mr. Mossman. I just
Thanks for the correction.
Oh, okay. So clarifying that there isn't a woman on the alternate. There are 2 vacancies, right?
Yes.
Okay. Mahalo, Mr. Mossman. Mahalo, Chair.
Okay, mahalo, Vice Chair. Members, any other clarifying questions for Mr. Mossman or Ms. Otomo before the Chair makes a recommendation? Okay, seeing none at this point, then the Chair will recommend the approval of Ms. Otomo to the Urban Design Review Board, and that would be for the approval of Resolution 22-225 by placing Ms. Ashley Noelani Miki Otomo's name, civil engineer, for a term expiring on March 31st, 2027, as listed on Exhibit A on Exhibit B. So that is the Chair's recommendation, and we'll entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Member Paulton, seconded by Member Kama. Members, any further discussion on the nominee? Seeing none, then the Chair will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Good. Any opposition? Nope. Okay, 7 ayes, 2 excusals. Excuse me, do I have 8? I got my count right. Yeah, 2 excusals, right. 7 ayes, 2 excusals, members Sugimura and member King. For some reason, I thought member Sugimura just entered the room. But anyway, for the record, it will go as 7 ayes and 2 excusals, members King and Sugimura. Thank you, Ms. Otomo, for spending time with the committee this morning. Thank you. Your matter will go for a final decision-making at a future council meeting. So we appreciate you spending the time with us. Thank you for your work, members, and Mr. Mossman. And we've got one more great item to address, and that is great item 258. This relates to the appointment of Blaine Uphold to the Maui Planning Commission. Resolution 22-247's purpose is to approve or disapprove the mayor's nomination of Blaine Uphold to the Maui Planning Commission for a term expiring March 31st, 2027, to fill a vacancy due to the resignation of William Gordon Gregg. And we have again Mr. Mossman to provide us an overview on the nominee. Go ahead, Mr. Mossman.
Thank you, Chair Molina. In replacing Mr. Willie Gregg, we were looking for a Kula member of the planning department. And, we had to pretty much hunt around and ask questions and find someone that from the upcountry. Mr. Blaine Upole having his own company with Maui Crisp and also his own company with Advanced Trucking, really interested in giving back to his community, and we really welcome his enthusiasm in joining such a huge commission as the Maui Planning Commission. And so with that being said, I asked him to be on the call. I believe he is on the call so that he can answer some questions. We went through the attendance and etc. And as you know, they meet twice a month. The Maui Planning twice a month on the second and fourth Thursday. So with all that being discussed with him, we went and we're happy to have him as a nominee from the mayor's office and ask for your support.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mossman. As Mr. Poe, I'd like to ask you to. There you are. Aloha, Mr. Poe. Thank you for coming to the committee meeting this morning. We'd like to ask you to maybe share about a minute or two about yourself and why you would like to be considered for the Maui Planning Commission. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair Molina, council members. Mahalo for this opportunity. I was born and raised here, local resident Maui. Lived up country my whole life, and now reside in Kula for the last 15 years. I've been an entrepreneur since I'm 23 years old. I started a trucking company back then, managed the Lima Shell service station, and created our current company, Maui Crisps, which we manufacture dehydrated beef into thin, crispy chips. I've been a part of community coaching baseball, fundraisers for children battling cancer. We've done golf tournaments. I've also worked with Rise Hawai'i doing a educational video that was supported by the Hawaii Public Charter Schools and Kamehameha Schools, trying to share my story and other local entrepreneur stories around the state with high school students and exposing them to becoming entrepreneurs themselves. I've been involved with community meetings. I followed this commission for some years now, watching it on Kaku and hearing different topics arise and talking to other people in the community. I felt, it's my time since my willingness to learn and assist with this planning commission feels important for me to give back to my community and at least try and see what we can do to make this board and commission a success.
Okay, mahalo for your opening remarks, Mr. Apo. Before I turn matters over to the committee for any questions they may have, staff, do we have any testifiers for great item 258?
Chair, we have no individuals signed up for this item.
Okay, members, if there are no objections, Chair will close public testimony on great item 258 relating to the nomination of Mr. Apo to the Maui Planning Commission. Any objections?
No objections, Chair.
Okay, so noted. All right, Mr. Apo, well, first of all, my goodness, you got my appetite going mentioning about the crispy beef and all of that stuff. Are you folks doing any crispy deer by any chance? That could come in handy too if you are. But,
go ahead. We've been doing testing for about a year now with the deer, especially with the influx of deer going through people's yards and the local farmers getting hit by it. But yeah, we did. It actually is very good.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think that was my question, but no, in all seriousness, congratulations on your success with being an entrepreneur. And, thank you for your willingness to put your name out there to be considered for this very important and busy commission. So at this point, members, the floor is now open for questions for either Mr. Apo or Mr. Mossman. Okay, we'll start with Mr. Sinensi. Go ahead.
Mahalo, Chair. My first question is for Mr. Mossman. It looks like we've got a full commission. Would Mr. Apo technically be taking someone's, or would an outgoing member?
Yes, sir. He's replacing William Craig on the list. So we do have, that's the only vacancy we have right now. Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. And then mahalo, Mr. Apo, for your willingness to serve. Our planning commission is one of our pretty heavy duty commissions. And so should you be elected, you'd be able to kind of chime in on a lot of the different, whether it be developments and such around the county. And so I just kind of wanted to get your feel. We are concerned about our water resources, particularly up country where we have the water meter list. And so there's we're trying to focus on certain areas where we can have affordable housing, where development should. We're looking at moving Mauka, some of the areas for climate change. So what is your general consensus about where, we should be looking at development in Maui County? Considering all of these factors.
Well, speaking as an upcountry resident, for me, seeing all these other local families on the list waiting for water meters or even housing developments, I think the first priority to me would be securing our water access before we start doing any more development. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I think every year living up country, we get water droughts, have to restrict our water usage. And I'm not really deep into it on what exactly is causing all this and how we can expand our holding systems or catchment, or maybe a lot more to dig into, but I'm definitely interested in that topic and want to be a part of that for sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nancy. Members, any other questions for Mr. Apo or Mr. Mossman at this time? Okay, I see Member Paulton with her hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Apo, for your willingness to serve. Love the crisps. I just was wondering, I'm stoked to hear that you've been watching some of the planning commission meetings. It's kind of a heavy load to get into as a volunteer, so stoked on that your willingness to apply. Just was wondering, because the planning commission has the sole authority in the special management area, how familiar you are with, the issues that we're facing, such as sea level rise, coastal erosion, and like that, like your familiarity with the sea level rise exposure area, the PACT iOS website, and things like that.
Thank you. Yes, so the recent one I've been following along is the Mama's Fish House sand replenishment on the beach. Prior to that was I believe I call it Camp One, but it's on in Nazca's, where those private owners were bringing in sand from the land. So, and as an avid diver for taco, I've seen the grounds underwater, the reef and whatnot get kind of covered by the soot. And just watching all this stuff go on, there's a lot more. Being in trucking, there was an issue in the mainland with the soot covering up the reef, and they would wash the sand prior to that. But as far as here in Hawaii, I'm not too sure how we could go about it. I'm definitely willing to investigate and look into it. But yeah, shoreline for sure is number one. Also, land access for locals. Yeah.
Thank you. And I just was wondering if you could speak to like your methodology, like this past 4 years I was chairing the Land Use Commission, which has a lot of similarities. But when there's super controversial decisions come up and maybe you don't have a dog in the fight, like how would you come to a decision? Like what is your methodology for decision making? I could use some pointers too.
Shoots. I've my father-in-law's a marine biologist, so I would consult with him, and I mean a lot of stuff I would seek either investigating myself, getting information myself on how to go about it. But yeah, I've been seeing it's tough. I mean, you cannot know everything, right? So I would just basically looking for like get evidence and bring it to the table and show the other board members, that here's what the real side of it is the effects, the pros and cons of it, and have everybody bring their pros and cons to the table so they work together to get it going. But yeah, it is. I've been following. It's been in me for a couple of years to sign up, and I kind of been hesitant, but I feel at this time I think I can, or at least I have to try.
Right on. Still, thank you for applying.
Thank you. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Member Paulton. Mahalo for your responses, Mr. Apo. I see Committee Vice Chair Ronald Fernandez. Proceed with your questions for Mr. Apo or Mr. Mossman.
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha, Mr. Apo.
Hello.
Mahalo for your willingness to serve. Are you related to the Apos on Molokai?
Yes. Those are brother.
Sorry, I should have asked you on the side. But my first question is regarding your or second is regarding your attendance. As everyone has kind of spoke to, and as you are aware, there's a lot of meeting materials, so a lot of reading before the meeting, and you've seen how long the meetings can be. Do you foresee any concerns with your ability to attend all the meetings twice a month for the length of time?
Yep, I'm committed fully. I am no longer coaching. I've stepped back from that, so that opened up a lot of space.
Mahalo. And then, okay, so you responded to my question regarding, you already spoke to your experience of the Planning Commission. How do you foresee contributing? If you'd like to speak any more, you kind of shared some, but if you'd like to share any more about how you foresee contributing to the Commission?
Just development in general. Looking and making sure we're doing the right thing for both local residents and new coming residents. Yeah, it's a tough one, but yeah, I mean, whatever I can do, I mean, and look it thoroughly through everything, that decision-making process.
Mahalo. And my last question, I like that you have that relationship to the natural environment. I think it'll speak to your ability to be able to balance the built environment to the natural environment, ensuring that the impact of the built environment is not destroying our natural environment. Otherwise, you won't be able to gather hay anymore. And so, the controversy that generally comes up is that balance between, building too much and building enough for who. And we say we don't want to build in wetlands or on the shoreline anymore, generally speaking, we don't want Maui to look as urbanized as Oahu does. But when we take projects piecemeal, those broader ideas kind of get put on the sideline. So will you speak to your thoughts on trying to achieve that balance of, ensuring that I don't know if you don't want Maui to look like Oahu or what your thoughts are on continuing to build along the shoreline and the wetlands.
Yeah, so overdevelopment is definitely one of my topics, priorities that I would like to have a little say in. It seems like every time it's over the years, Kihei has been just everything near the shoreline has been developing. Doing some research, talking to some kupunas about the wetlands and how it was back in the days, is we're building in swampland knowingly, and to have the county fork the bill to clean up all the roads with all the runoff and whatnot that's being diverted around properties, I feel it's kind of not. It doesn't make sense to me. Should do a better job on looking at the total big picture, and preserving all the, because then again, that's all that soot and whatnot, same thing that'll cover the reef. And as a local person, I want to have something to hand out to my kids and show them, what it's like to live on an island. We're surrounded by water. We have enough food to access on the island from Mauka to Makai to survive here. So in case something drastic, something big happens out there in the world. So, but yeah, my willingness to open up and really speak my feelings, yes, for sure.
Mahalo, Mr. Arpo, for all your responses and for applying. I will be supporting your nomination. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
During this nomination. Mahalo, Chair.
Mahalo, Vice Chair. Members, any other questions for Mr. Apo before the Chair makes a recommendation? Okay, seeing none then. Well, the Chair's recommendation is to approve Mr. Apo's nomination to the Maui Planning Commission for a term expiring on March 31st, 2027 to fill a vacancy due to the resignation of William Gordon Griggs. So again, Chair's motion is to approve Resolution 22-247, approving Mr. Apo's nomination. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Member Kama, seconded by Committee Vice Chair Rollins Fernandez. Members, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, then the Chair will, did I hear a voice? Someone wanted to make a comment? No? Okay, must be hearing things. All right, members, Chair will call for the vote. And all those in favor of the motion to approve Mr. Apo's nomination to the Maui Planning Commission signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone oppose? Okay, Chair will mark it 7 ayes with 2 excusals, Members Sugimura and Member King. Mahalo, Mr. Apo, for spending time with the committee. Congratulations. Your matter will go before the full council in a couple of weeks for final decision making. But thank you very much for sharing your manao.
Mahalo to all. Have a great day. Hello.
Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Mr. Mossman. I think this does it for us with you for today. Thank you for all of your hard work in responding to all of our questions.